All right, Gym Bros. Big Paul here. We're about to get started with our live Q&A. I've got to run all my promos and warnings so people don't go do stupid stuff. Let's go.
Like drink bleach.
Like drink bleach. Don't drink bleach. Warning. This content is for entertainment and educational purposes only. This video is brought to you by First Detachment Nutrition. Battle tested, expert formulated. Use discount code AB10 at checkout for 10% off. All right, guys, we're live. I got Joe Miller here today with us from First Detachment.
Hey.
And the one and only Chewbacca Uncircumcised, and the missing Todd Lee. He's going to look for his chicken shake.
I will say when Colin's Instagram popped up early on in the early days, I had to look 3 times. What does that say? That's awesome.
It's very polarizing, Joe. People seem to feel very strongly about it one way or the other. There's no middle ground on my Instagram handle.
Mine's pretty plain. Joe Miller.
Probably a wise choice. It was always a fun experience looking for jobs when I was younger with that at gmail.com.
Nice.
I eventually switched to something plain for work related inquiries.
I did have that happen in college where I had a certain a certain part of the male sexual reproductive system that I put in my Yahoo mail, and then I emailed a professor not even thinking about
Always
it.
Always a good look, right?
Oh yeah. They wrote back if you wouldn't mind, please update to a Wayne State University email. Fair enough. And it was a female professor too, even more awkward.
Double trouble.
It's funny. Everybody calls Colin at the gym. They call him Chewbacca Uncircumcised now. We were literally talking to a guy the other night, giving life advice, and he was like, "Thank you, Chewbacca." We're done.
Yeah,
that's awesome.
It was very.
I didn't words of wisdom for Chewbacca.
A nice moment ruined by my Instagram handle.
There you go.
He's like, "Thanks, Chewbacca." He's like, "Thanks, man. That means a lot coming from you, Chewbacca." I'm like, "Okay."
Oh man. Oh god. So what?
Oh, you did change it to your real name. It doesn't say Chewbacca Uncircumcised.
Figured I switched it up today.
McDonald's Dollar Menu Explorer.
I got up my game because I had I should have left my daughter's name up there. She was playing around doing recordings. She's 10, and it said, what was it? Cat girl, no, something. Cat princess, her name, and something else. And I was like, I'll change it. I should. It's that split second. I regret it now because I think it would have added some context. Who's this guy? Who's this cat girl guy?
Who is he?
Some boomer using his kid's account.
Yeah.
It's funny.
It was
funny now.
Alan teaching a kid that he's on a tricycle, not a bicycle, when he was trying to teach me how to turn my mic on.
Nice.
It's like, you don't have to be scared. You've got training wheels that are built into the device. They will not fall off.
Well, Colin and I do IT daily, so we help people that are technology impaired get things working. It's funny now that we're internet famous at the gym. It's like literally we can't work out anymore. It's nonstop, man. People stopping us, asking questions. I had a friend tell me, it's like, I see a herd of people following you guys around at the gym, and I'm like, yeah, I know. It's like there's a line waiting to ask questions. I feel like the live Q&A is at our workouts.
Well, I was gonna say, because we're coming there for the show April 8th. I wanted to try to get a workout in, but I don't know. It might have to be I don't know what time they close. Maybe a late night Friday or something.
Oh, it's open 24/7.
Oh, is it? Yeah.
Yeah.
Late night
it's
Friday is
awesome.
a good option. Not very busy then.
Yeah, it's not very busy, man. It's murder in there in the middle of the week. For those of you guys not in the know, we work out at the shop gym in the DC metro area. It's one of the main bodybuilding gyms of the DC metro area. It's pretty cool place. But
yeah,
yeah,
I don't know if I updated you on it. I need to send you some updates, but June 24th, we're going to have the seminar. I wanted to work you into that as well. So,
okay. I need to make sure I'm not volleyball occupied that
Yeah.
weekend.
well, yeah, if you are, we understand, but be fun.
My ex-wife can handle that one. All right, so let's do some questions, Colin. What do we got up here?
Sure. We've got a question here from Kaivan Sadirna. What are your thoughts on phentermine? Thanks. I guess.
Wasn't that the shit that was causing people to have heart failure?
Sounds like it.
I'm not sure.
Yeah, it was that weight loss drug that I think it was making people having heart failure and die. I'm pretty sure that's what it was. If
Anapex, that's probably how we know it.
Yeah, I see in my previous life at
Sounds like a stimulant.
medical clinic, we prescribed it, but it was usually mixed with other less aggressive compounds, because you can get it in I think it's like 17.5 or something, and then like a 37 milligram, I think is what it's compounded, but using, I mean, it's strong. It's really, really freaking strong. So obviously the normal precautions, anything is going to affect your heart rate and things. You're not going to sleep much either, but yeah, I think it comes in a 37.5.
I don't know why I was thinking that shit was pulled off the market. I thought for some reason it was pulled off the market. I don't see it used in the bodybuilding world for contest prep or anything.
It was used a lot. Like what I've seen it a lot or heard a lot, kind of anecdotally too, was a lot of very low, body weight, like smaller frame women just kind of amped up on it because it just destroys, crushes your appetite, and it's pretty strong to get their energy going. So, but yeah, you're right. I haven't heard it either as much.
Yeah, it's a norepinephrine reuptake inhibitor, basically. So it prevents, it works like an SSRI exactly, but it's just with norepinephrine rather than serotonin. So with norepinephrine, it's going to cause alpha 1 stimulation over the beta stimulations, so it acts more on the blood vessels in the brain than it does on the heart. Or so a beta 2 agonist is Clen, that's going to cause fat to get released from the fat cells and also make the lungs work more efficiently. Beta 3 receptors are on the fat cells, that causes more fat to get released from the fat cells. Beta 1 receptors cause the heart to beat faster and stronger. And then the alpha 2 receptors are there to block fat from leaving stubborn body fat. So men, it's the love handles, and women, it's the legs and butt. So that if you take yohimbine, which is an alpha 2 antagonist, it allows you to burn fat from those locations. That's why a lot of people who are in contest prep use yohimbine pre-cardio, like Clen, yohimbine, L-carnitine, GH is your 4 food groups of pre-cardio. And then the alpha 1 stimulation is pretty much all bad, no good. It's the yohimbine rauwasine that's the one that people think of when they think of yohimbine, the shitty yohimbine that causes you to get sick and nauseous and dizzy, and is why people have a reaction to yohimbine, is to the alpha 1 stimulation. So it's funny that they actually marketed something that was the shit byproduct, that you would extract out the good yohimbine from the shit yohimbine, and you market in the prescription yohimbines, yohimbine hydrochloride. Then they've actually found a market for the people, for the alpha 1 group, which is the norepinephrine group. And that's, it was like you said, I'm not going to, it's the women who are trying to lose fat at all costs.
Right.
And so they're willing to take something like this. And we've probably all heard about the overdoses in 2021 of diuretics. It's kind of like that. I find that women are much more likely to massively overdose on drugs that are pills than men are when it comes to bodybuilding. That if a guy is told do 100 milligrams, he might do 200 milligrams. But if you tell a girl to do 5 milligrams, she might do 50 milligrams.
Right. Yeah. And I'm not sure what you've seen, Dr. Todd, but I know I had some physicals come back from, I'm not a medical professional, but just kind of working, running a medical management clinic, would see kind of the results and stuff, and a lot of elevated blood pressure from phentermine. People were pretty amped up, having issues with that, like as far as like chronic use. They were kind of getting more used to it, taking more and more, and then that was a concern that came up, but I'm not sure if there was other factors that kind of also played into it. But
that's pretty direct. I mean, the alpha-1 receptor is on the blood vessels to cause them to constrict, to drive up blood pressure. That's all it's for. So like if you're getting chased by a rhinoceros or something, not that you like a carnivorous rhinoceros chasing you, then like the adrenaline, the epinephrine will bind to the heart, which is beta 1, beta 2, that'll make your heart beat faster and stronger so you can get more blood flow to the tissues. The beta 2 receptor, the epinephrine binds to the lungs so that more oxygen enters the system. The beta 2 receptor is also on the fat cells to cause the fat to get released in the bloodstream, so you have endurance fuel source. And then the alpha-1 receptor is going to constrict the blood vessels so that you get the pressure to get to the muscles.
Makes sense.
It all makes sense that the adrenaline release from the adrenal gland will increase everything that's helpful for getting away from the carnivorous rhinoceros.
So what you're saying is the best form of cardio for fat loss is getting chased by a carnivorous rhinoceros
or the police.
Or the police. Okay.
While on caffeine, yohimbine, and/or clen.
Yes. Wake up in the morning.
In the morning, before you eat.
Break your
Guys,
door down.
make it happen.
Just shoot your Helios after it's preloaded. Preload your Helios with GH, and then shoot that. So when the cops break in looking for your Hayron, you can just bolt. It's like I did turn my ring light off so I don't look like I took my Hayron this morning. So you weren't here for this, Joe, but because I have this ring light blasting in my face, I don't have an offset camera like these gentlemen. My eyes were droopy, and so this guy was convinced I was on heroin.
Oh, boy.
He got other people in the comment section convinced that I had a drug problem. So they're all like concerned that I need to get help.
Yeah, I had to learn the hard way to not put that big ring in my face because I didn't sleep for a whole day, like a day and a half after that. It blasted me.
I just didn't turn it on this morning. I don't want more pale. That's not something I need.
Just curious, just another, if I could throw another thought on that discussion there. I did see and I don't know if it was like just an off physician that had this compounded, but I did see like some people using from a compounding pharmacy a form of yohimbi in a like a gel or lotion form. They were using
I made that once. Yeah. I had a combination pill and the cream. So you would apply the cream that had caffeine, L-carnitine, I think, and yohimbine. And so you put it on the tissue that you wanted to burn the fat from. The yohimbine binds to those alpha-2 receptors. So now you can access that fat preferentially. Then you would take the capsule, which was Wrath of the Valkyrie.
Got it.
And then that would basically allow the pill to be targeted to those fat cells specifically. And it was too complicated for people. They didn't understand what they were supposed to do with it. They thought they were supposed to eat the cream. It was like really shit you own a supplement company. You understand like the questions you get are so extremely weird that you don't understand what planet they're from. Yeah.
Sure.
So it was too confusing. So we just reduced it to just the pills.
Got it.
Yeah, usually stuff like Sweet Sweat has no active ingredients. It just smells nice, and that's why it's popular. That the girls pick it because it smells nice, and other girls use it. But they don't like flip it over to see what the ingredients are and see that there are no active ingredients. Like BioFreeze is really popular. It's menthol. You could just put like anything that has menthol on your skin. It's the same thing. It doesn't have an active ingredient like Aspercream, for instance.
Interesting. Got it.
All right, Colin, what do we got next?
Let's see here. We got a question from Jacob Widener. How normal is it to experience an enlarged prostate from DHT derivatives? Is this side effect rare? If the prostate enlarges, will it show elevated levels on a prostate-specific antigen test?
I guess I'll take this one. So, one, the DHT does not grow the prostate. The DHT grows the prostate in the presence of estrogen binding to SHBG and that complex binding to its own receptor, which most of your urologists don't know about. In fact, I've never met a urologist that knew that. And so and as far as DHT derivatives, I think what you mean is like synthetic versions of DHTs, not byproducts. So primo, Masteron. My understanding is none of those are very strong binders to the androgen receptor in general, that although they're made from DHT, they don't function like DHT. They function as a purely anabolic compound like DHB. Is this side effect rare? I don't see that being a possible side effect. And then if the prostate enlarges, will elevated levels of prostate-specific antigen? That's a good question. I don't remember whether BPH, benign prostatic hypertrophy, actually causes elevated PSA, but I think it does. Pardon, Paul?
I've been through all this, man. I had really bad BPH and had to have RF therapy to shrink my my prostate. This is when I was off gear for like 10 years, and I think it was because my estrogen was through the roof. I don't know, but but my PSA was normal.
Okay, so the PSA is only for neoplasms of the prostate, not for just enlarged healthy prostate.
Correct.
All right.
Yeah, at least that's my understanding. But yeah, I had it was bad, man. Like it was to the point where I could barely pee.
We needed Jamie Vernon. I'll be Jamie Vernon for today.
But the RF treatment I had it done, I don't know, 8-9 years ago. I was in my early 40s, and it like instantly fixed everything. I've been fine ever since. It was one of the best decisions I've ever made as far as having a procedure done. According to
emedicine.medscape.com, the PSA levels also tend to rise in men with BPH.
Mine were normal. But I think also BPH can be caused by bacterial infections too. So there is that. That was something I was told as well. So it may not even be hormonal.
Yeah, and this is pfc.org confirms that. I guess pfc.org is probably Prostate Cancer Forum. I don't know. Let's go check out, what does that stand for? Prostate Cancer Foundation. So, just because they've got a fancy name that sounds right doesn't make it accurate. I mean, a lot of this is a .org, not a .gov. So there's no oversight to that website, but that's two websites that say, and to me, it makes sense. I mean, it's an antigen specific to the prostate. And since every neoplasm is a unique creature, like there's no homology between one person's prostate cancer and another person's, there's no way to have a specific antigen just for a prostate cancer that I can think of. It's just more prostate tissue, and it's what gets into the bloodstream. So a prostate cancer that punctures through the capsule and then gets into the bloodstream because it wants to seed lymph nodes and start new colonies, that's more likely to be in the blood than if it's just normal prostate tissue that's inside the prostate capsule that isn't going to be getting into the bloodstream. There's no reason to really have more of it unless it became so invasive it laterally just punctured into other tissue and then caused it to get into the bloodstream, which would be a variable thing, whereas with cancer it's just more of a staging thing.
All right, Colin, what do we got up next?
Alrighty.
How normal? Oh, that was the same question.
Sorry about that.
I'm like
one from Mark's peak week protocol for a newbie: backload or front load, very carb sensitive, don't need to be too complicated. Deplete Sunday through Thursday, then start loading Friday. Good plan.
I think that peaking is stupid. That's the simplest way to put it. That you fuck up every peak. I've competed for like 15 years, and pretty much every peak went wrong because every peak something was done that didn't need to be done. Whereas I always look better the Sunday before the show. I have never gotten a better look come Saturday than I did before the peaking process starts. So to me, what makes sense is you get as shredded as you can, and then you add in more food of the normal food you eat, more carbs than you normally would eat slowly while keeping your water and sodium the exact same. And then once you cap out, if you get a little softer, reduce the carbs. If you never cap out, if you just keep losing and losing, add in carbs faster and faster so that there's an ideal weight, that you have an ideal look. You try to match that weight and look. And then come show day, if you wake up and you're 221 and you know you look better at 224, then eat your meals and your water until you hit 224 and stay there. And then don't overeat and go over that 224. And that's it. I mean, as far as diuretics go, even if you did look slightly better when you step on stage with the diuretics, after you do a few rounds of posing, if you're on diuretics, you'll probably flatten out and you'll look like shit. And you're definitely not going to be able to salvage that any look come the night show or the Saturday show. That's in the perfect universe where you're doing a guest posing. Then the diuretic would make sense because you're stepping on stage one time. You know exactly when you're stepping on stage. You're only up there for a minute or two, and then you're stepping off stage and you're never stepping back on stage. But in the case where you have a 45-second routine, symmetry round, then you've got a comparison round, then you have to come back at night, do a posing routine, then do another comparison round, do trophies, possibly do a pose down, that you're on stage like 8 times. There's no fucking way that you're going to be able to balance that with a diuretic, especially if you pull water while doing the diuretic. So in this case, what we're looking at is if you're very carb sensitive, you should be practicing. You should get basically ready 4 weeks out and then practice your peak, or if you were going to do a peak, every week going into the show. If you don't have time, there should be no depletion. And then Sunday, then start loading Friday. Yeah, I wouldn't deplete at all. I would just keep your normal food. So if you're eating 50 carbs a day, go up to 75 carbs a day and see if you start to flatten out because your metabolism picks up, or if you start to fill up. And if you're filling up on 75 carbs a day, keep doing that same tiny amount until you start getting softer, not harder, and then you pull back to 50 again. What do you think, Paul?
I always feel like I look better the week after the show. I don't know if I eat enough going into the show. I think that's been my issue.
Yeah, that's basically. So what I was thinking was, you're thinking the same thing I am, but I expressed it different. Is so you'd want to start to reverse diet out a week out so that you've got a full week's worth of deload and a full week's worth of reverse dieting in place.
Yeah, the way I've been doing with people, I start adding food back in about 4 or 5 days out. I start slowly adding food back in. And then like Thursday, I'll probably, usually I'll do a test run, like a week out. I'll do a test high day and see what we can get away with. And then I'll back it off like 20% from that high day. And then see, and you know, we got time to clean it up then, but you're right. Once you use a diuretic, there's no fixing things from the diuretic. Now, do you do any water manipulation? I usually have people cut water back the day before.
I would, but it doesn't go well. You know, like you can pull some water because a lot of times, okay, if they're an amateur, they're trying to make a weight class, right? So you have to do something to make that weight class. And if they're not going to try to make a weight class, I just wouldn't fuck with it. I'm like, let's just change nothing. Just, we've been doing this practice shit without a diuretic, without pulling water. You look great at this weight with this much water, this much salt, and this much food. Let's just repeat that on stage.
Yeah, I think I've heard John Jewett say that lately. Like he just doesn't even mess with people.
He reiterated in a post just. I think that was him who just texted me too. That was funny. Was it? Yep. That's funny. Like right before you said his name, he DM me. That's funny.
Yeah, I think I've heard him say that he just doesn't even mess with things at all. Just rides people straight into the show. I don't know. The more variables there are, the more chance there is to screw something up. I mean, that's to me, it's sort of the Occam's razor, approach to things.
And it's funny too because like the amateurs do the most extreme shit, and I thought that was a time period thing. It's not. It's like the least amount of shows the person did, the more variances they have and the more religious they approach it, where you like very strict religious approach towards how to do this and how to do that. And they use tons of weird ass drugs that nobody uses. And then they do really bizarre peak week protocols when there's still like 15% to 12% body fat. It's like nothing you do is going to work. There is no point to this. You need another 12 weeks of dieting.
Yeah, I mean, if you're not in shape, you're not in shape. There's no diuretic that's going to fix that.
Right.
I never,
If you're in shape, you wouldn't feel so insecure that you need to do a Hail Mary pass. It'd be like if you're at the first down and the 1 yard line, you just walk it across. The only reason why you'd have to do like some giant bombing play is if you're at fourth down and you're the 20-yard line. And so you got to try to like just throw it in. So it's like they wouldn't be taking desperate measures if like shooting insulin and wearing a garbage bag while running upstairs in a sauna. Like you wouldn't be doing that if you actually thought you looked good. So like and if you really were shredded, you wouldn't have any doubt in your mind if you're lean enough. You wouldn't be thinking, I wonder if this is water or fat. Let's do some diuretics and find out. It's like, that's not how it works. Like you should be shredded and have lines in your glutes weeks out from the show.
Yeah, I mean, I usually I tell people to try to be ready at least 2 weeks out. Maybe 3.
And I don't know how it is in your area, but here before COVID-19, we had like 17 level 5 shows a year in Michigan. It was like every weekend was a different show. So there is no reason to buy tickets. I love that this happens a lot too with the new competitors. Like the girls will tell everyone what show they're doing and people will buy tickets in advance. So now they're stuck doing that show. I always tell people, like with guys, nobody comes sees a guy compete, so it doesn't really matter. But like, I always tell people, like, you buy the tickets the day of the show, and they're like, well, they're more money. I'm like, so the fuck what? They're like an extra $20, but you're not committed to it until like, what if you're not going to be in shape? You're going to do a show that you're not in shape for just to save $20. You're going to spend $500 with the Airbnb and the hair and the makeup and the tanning and the entry fee. But you're going to save 20 on the late fee? Like that doesn't make any sense. Wait until you're in shape and we're practicing posing and practicing peaking, then pick the show.
Yeah, I mean, there's a from the end of April all the way through October, there's pretty much a show every weekend. I mean, there's always something going on. There's tons of stuff to choose from. So, but I've never had a problem. My problem is I get too small. I've never had a problem getting in shape. But I just had a couple people compete last weekend, and I did that exact same thing. I did pull a little water before the end, but we didn't do anything complex. Although I think sometimes it's psychological. Like people want to see a complex peaking protocol going into the show. So
like, for sure.
Like I'll change some food sources. I'm like, well, you gotta drink. Eat white rice and chicken breast, this brand of chicken breast, and get spring water and whatever.
Yeah, distilled water, and it's just like I know Justin believes in the distilled water, and
I don't think he does that anymore. He had me drink spring water.
Okay, well maybe that's what it was, but I remember like thinking like, oh man, that's just and he's like, he'll admit, he's like, I don't know the science of why this works. My opinion is that it works, and that's enough for me. If somebody who's got more experience than me is like, just do it anyway, but they just say it the right way. If they say just trust the process, I'm like, this person has no fucking idea what they're doing.
I think he and I were talking about it, and he said he mainly just does it because it makes people feel good.
Oh, is that what he said?
Yeah.
Oh,
yeah,
okay, because I was like. He was just like, because there's a lot of times just like, I don't know why it works.
You've heard him talk about it, Joe. I think that's what he said, is that he just tells him to drink spring water because it's psychological more than anything.
I was like, it doesn't make any sense to me.
Yeah, I think some of the last week stuff, he's just so used to the mental part of coaching people, Yeah. But I was curious too, if you guys ever use any like even just like over the counter water displacement agents with clients or anything. Is that
I don't.
You guys use?
I used to use Aqualize by Species because it's like it wasn't reliable. I'm like, if you can find hydrochlorothiazide, that's fine. I know how to use that. Otherwise, get Aqualize. Because, I mean, the thing is a diuretic's a diuretic. They're kind of not reversible, and they're inconsistent results. So unless that person, like, I know for a fact that if I use 6 milligrams of hydrochlorothiazide, I will get good results. If I use 25 milligrams of hydrochlorothiazide, I'll be too dry. If I use diazide, even a half of a diazide, I'll be too dry. Then I'll flatten out, and I will look worse every round of posing rather than better.
Yeah, I've had the same experience. I actually think I'd have no problem getting dry. I think I'm better just with nothing.
Yeah,
I wasn't planning on using it this year unless, well, I was going to do those 4 shows. So if we got to the point where, like, okay, you had a little film of water and it didn't go away when you were posing, then I'll be like, next time I'll add in a quarter diazide. You know, that seems reasonable to me. I've never actually gotten to the stage and we didn't do just a quarter diazide of 6 milligrams of hydrochlorothiazide. I mean, 6, not diazide, aquazide. If I've always used at least 6 milligrams as a precaution and placebo effect, just so I'm not stressed out that I don't have one on board. But even the guys who say they don't use water manipulation, don't use diuretics, they're still using 6 milligrams of hydrochlorothiazide. You know,
yeah, that's what I did.
Like a scrimmage, like a tiny little portion of the weakest diuretic. And I think they're doing it as a placebo effect.
That's exactly what I used at my last show, was a little bit of HCTZ. But I don't know. I felt like I looked better the day before my show.
Right. I wasn't going to use it this year, but every year in the past I have used it. It's like every time I've been always slightly flat.
I mean, nailing that peak is damn near impossible. I don't know. It's Justin and I were talking about it. It's like landing a plane on an aircraft carrier, man. It's, you know, you got to be perfect. I don't remember. I think it was Jay Cutler. When I was at his show, he told me, he said, you only get like 1 or 2 perfect peaks in an entire career. I think that's what he was saying backstage. He was telling people.
Yeah, I think for me too, I've always had naturally had like sleeping issues, and so the travel and, you know, the spray tan and this and that. I remember doing it in my early 20s, and then 2-3 years ago, what was it, 2 years ago when I competed again, and just didn't fully realize until it was a little too late, like just how much I peed out, and I wasn't using anything to do that. I think it was just because I didn't sleep at all night, and just the body, you know, the metabolism was going much more than what it's used to, because I wasn't as tired. And, you know, of course, like, just, you know, and Justin helped me with mine. He had certain measurements of water, and I'm like, I think I'm good. You know, of course, it's like, just drink it and move on, you know. And of course, I end up cramping and being about 3-4 pounds maybe lighter than I probably should have been. But, you know,
Man,
I learned. I didn't do, and it wasn't extreme. Like, I didn't do anything crazy or extreme. I thought I was pretty tight to the plan, but looking back, like, oh well, no, to your guys' point about the previous weeks, I was sleeping in my own bed. I was more rested. So on those like trial runs, you know, so I think just being up for 7 hours, you know, or sleeping 2 hours the night, you know, overnight, I think, you know, that came into effect, at least for me.
What I usually do is I fly in on a Tuesday if I'm flying, and then I would mail my shit to me before I left, fly there, get to an Airbnb on Tuesday, move in and turn that into my apartment, find a local gym, like get the week pass. And now I'm living in that city now. So that come the day of the show, I am sleeping in my own bed, you know?
Yeah.
But like the idea of staying at the host hotel, it never works. I don't know why anyone does that, because they don't have a microwave, or they tell you they have a microwave and they don't. There's no refrigerator, or if there is a refrigerator, it's filled with alcohol you can't remove or you get charged. And then you can't cook all the food the way you would normally cook it. So when I go to a new city, if I'm driving, I bring my air fryer, my rice cooker, and my blender, right? If I'm flying, I fly there, I immediately go to a Walmart or whatever, and I buy a new rice cooker, a new microwave, and a new blender. And they're just costs of doing business. They go in the trash. That pretty much, or I return them if I can clean them well enough.
Smart.
I mean, you can get a rice cooker for $20.
$17, I think. What last time I bought one, yeah.
That is something everybody should fucking have, is a good rice cooker, or a shitty rice cooker. Just have a rice cooker.
I have my fancy Zoe Jirushi one.
There's we had this hotel room, and you couldn't have microwaves, so I bought a hot plate because I was like, well, and I basically set up the George Foreman grill so it drained into the bathroom sink, and on the other side was the hot plate, and then like
Mad scientist.
The cooking fish on the hot plate set off the smoke alarm because the steam from the fish was, I guess, thick enough that it wasn't water vapor. And then you couldn't open the window because they didn't want people committing suicide. So our room smelled like fucking burnt fish so long. And then like they came in and they smelled around and they're like, you can't cook in here. And it's like, okay. So I guess we got like a car lighter adapter in the winter and I'm cooking fish on the hood of my car with a hot plate in the snow. It was like,
I mean, if that's not dedication to the sport, I don't know what is.
Like fucking hotels, man. Airbnb every goddamn time. When Brian Troyle figured that out for Hunter that one year, I think it was the Tampa Pro in 2020. I was like, how the fuck have we not been doing this our whole lives? It was like, because we didn't have Airbnb really until COVID. Like COVID made Airbnb blow up like Walmart. And then now you got Airbnbs everywhere. Hopefully it's not a holiday weekend because Airbnb doesn't let you book on a holiday weekend. So if you're going to do a show and you want to start Airbnb, don't pick a show that's on a holiday weekend.
You guys ever use air fryers too?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I have.
I'm the only one I know who doesn't have one. What is the benefit of
I have
an air fryer?
2 of them.
Like, what do you use it for? Why is it good? Sell me on the air fryer because I haven't gotten one.
Like
yet.
a microwave that takes longer, but the food isn't microwaved.
Okay, but it's faster than the oven, presumably.
It's smaller than the oven.
Okay,
and it makes everything crispy.
Okay, crispy. I like crispy.
It's like
easy to clean, I think.
It's
like a toaster oven.
All right. I'm like counter space. I've got a small place, so counter space is it's like valuable real estate. I'm just like I don't know. Like it would it be able to replace a toaster oven?
It replaced the toaster oven. It replaced the oven.
I have a Ninja one that's a combination air fryer and toaster oven.
Oh, okay.
I think I've single-handedly kept Ninja in business. I have like every device they've ever made.
We have a blender. They are good quality machines.
We had Stan Efforting on our podcast. I literally during the show I was so intrigued. I'm like, well, let's look this up. Which one are you talking about? Because he was talking about the Ninja grill that has like the drawers and stuff.
Oh shit.
From Costco. So
I have that one.
Okay, I was going to ask you when you said that because it's on my shopping list now. Because I like especially for like chicken and stuff, and just come up and I got kids and the pans are dirty and they're left there from the night before. I'm like, oh geez, like I got all this protein to cook. I got to get on the move. Just throw it in there and move on. It's pretty.
I love my Ninja grill, man. That thing is awesome. It's got a meat probe you put in it, and you tell it, if you want your steak medium rare, you just set medium rare, and it put it in there, and it grills it to the proper temperature. It's pretty freaking cool. All right, Colin, what do we got next here?
Yeah, let's see. We've got a question from Alvaro Pox. Does Tren make you more insulin sensitive?
Well, the answer is yes. I don't understand the mechanisms of how it works. Todd would probably be able to elaborate on that one.
Yes, for sure. In fact, I did an experiment like this. All right, so I had something called this Keto Daddy. It's like you breathe into it, and it calculates out your ketones. A scientist who is involved with ketogenic research had me test one, and I wasn't able at the time to record the data well enough to give useful information, but it was a good idea. Now I'm better at data recording, but let's say a normal person's like a 2 on this thing, and a 4 means you're in ketosis. When I was on Tren, I could eat and drink like 20 grams of carbs mid-workout, 100 grams of carbs post-workout, eat 100 grams of sugar worth of gummy bears and blow into it and still be a 96.
That's wild.
Yeah, that's how efficient my body was at storing carbs and burning fat.
That's awesome.
And then when I was off a Tren, I couldn't hit 6 on the thing, even fasting. So Tren was extremely good at making me insulin sensitive.
What are the mechanisms for how that works?
Fuck if I know.
I like your honesty.
Yeah, I've noticed that, like when I go on contest prep, as soon as I start using Tren, I have to use insulin in the off season to keep my blood sugar under control, and then on contest prep, I drop the insulin, and then as soon as I throw a Tren in, I go the opposite direction. I start getting hypo sometimes, just from doing cardio.
I mean, we know that Tren is one. It's got an uncoupling effect, so it works like a little bit of DNP or T2. And that it makes your mitochondria inefficient at burning fat for ATP. So you burn more fat to get the same amount of energy. You lose, and that's how you lose heat. That's why you're always sweating on Tren.
Yeah, that's why you're hot all the damn time.
It decreases TBG, so there's more of a T4 to T3 conversion. So the T3, so on top of having the T2 effect, it's got the T3 effect on the mitochondria. So it's upregulating the speed of mitochondrial function, and it's decreasing its efficiency. So it might be doubling the amount of fat that you're burning per unit time. Then it also has the glucocorticoid receptor blocking effect. So it protects you from adrenaline causing cortisol being released, which would then eat away at the muscle tissue. So, and that's supposedly how it caused brain damage, is through the glucocorticoid receptor blockade in the neurons. So perhaps when cortisol binds to muscle cells, it decreases GLUT4 transporter translocation, translation, and expression on the muscle cells. Ipso facto, blocking the glucocorticoid receptor might cause an increase or relative increase in GLUT4 transporters on the surface of the cell.
That's interesting. Tren is wild. I think that's why, like, a lot of guys, you'll see a lot of guys running in the off season, is because you get this recomp effect just from taking Tren in the off season. Even though I probably wouldn't run it year round, but you see these a lot of dudes, especially it seems like the men's physique guys, that love to run it 365 days a year.
Well, they're trying not to grow, right?
Yeah.
The classic physique, if you're a weight cap, you don't want to grow. So it would make sense. If you want to ensure that you make no progress in your off season, take Tren, because you're going to be chasing your tail, burning everything you eat.
It's funny how people think Tren's good for size. I keep telling guys that it's not. They don't want to hear that.
Well, people also tend to take way too much of it.
Yeah, I mean, my plan for this competition prep, which I think starts Monday or Tuesday, is to do 5, maybe 10 milligrams. I forgot, what was that guy's name? Jordan Oakley. He got really mad at me because he intentionally or unintentionally misunderstood what I said. Whereas I said that I used 50 to 200 Tren a day. But the new science and what some of the pros are doing is using 10 milligrams a day, because 10 milligrams a day is the toxic threshold. So my goal is to stay under that toxic threshold. But that doesn't mean that's what I did to turn pro, which is not what I said. But I think that going forward, if I can retain all the tissue and just lose fat using less Tren, then that's what I'll do.
I backed way off this year.
Because you were using, what, 50 every other day?
50 every other day is what I did. Actually, I was taking it every day, 25 milligrams every day.
Okay, well, then so that's reasonable. Because I was like, why is he doing every other day? And it's like, okay, but you do it every day. Yeah, so same with me, as I was going to try to stay under 50. I notice no benefit over 50 a day. I see a huge personality decrease between 30 and 50 a day. I see no further decrease in my personality over 50 a day. So if I'm taking 50, I might as well take 100. It doesn't make a difference. And then over 100, I start feeling toxic, like as if I'm sick all the time. But I see a huge change between 20 to 50. That every 10 milligrams is an enormous difference in personality.
Yeah, I mean, I felt great on the 25 a day. I slept well. I did get some of the thermic uncoupling effect. I was sweating a little bit, but I didn't feel like a madman.
Higher than a certain level on Tren, I start to feel toxic too, Todd. Like I sometimes want to follow people while I'm driving after they cut me off and violently explain to them what they did is very wrong.
Yeah, we talked about that, the battle axe story. That's a different type of toxic. Yeah, I don't want to look at my dog. I don't want to yell at my dog for breathing loud. You know what I mean? That's like when I'm so mad at nothing that I yell at my dog and he didn't do anything wrong. I was like, yeah, that you're on too much, Tren.
I'll tell you what though. I'll tell you what, with Tren and all the stimulants and stuff, you're on a contest prep. My work productivity goes through the freaking roof, man. I'm a machine at work, man. I'm like, I get so much work done, and I'm like almost pathological about decision making too. Like I guess I just like make, black and white. Everything's black and white.
Yeah, like a great white shark. It's almost like you want to tell Ben Shapiro to hurry up and spit it out. That's how revved up you are.
I just get shit done, and I have zero tolerance for BS. When it comes to work, it's like not, you're either getting your shit done or you're not. And I'll tell people. But I don't get this. I don't get this. I don't get the angry thing like people do. I just get very, very. I don't know. I guess cold about things. I don't know. I don't know of a way to describe it. But
that's an interesting. Let's unpack that a little bit. So, you're a very calm person who's assertive, right?
Yes.
And you don't have. It doesn't seem like, because you're in charge, you don't have any outside pressure that's uncontrollable. Like, you are the master of your universe, right?
In some way, yeah, I guess.
So therefore, when you turn the dials up, it's on an efficiency and assertiveness. Whereas if you were someone who's in a shit life and everyone's stepping on you and you feel miserable all the time and you feel powerless, you turn up their neural impulses, and that's going to amplify what they're feeling. So they're going to feel more anxious, more helpless, more desperate, and they're more likely to snap.
I will tell you, I have zero tolerance for the people that are barely doing the bare minimum at work. And here I am working 90 hours a week, and they're complaining about, I don't have time to do this. And I'm like, motherfucker. I work 7 days a week. I'm a single parent, running multiple businesses. Don't tell me you don't have time.
Yeah, it's kind of hard to compete with that. There's always someone who's an ultra overachiever, and then if you hold them to the standard you hold yourself, then everyone's going to be disappointing. It reminds me of that scene in Generation Iron where Kai Green is staring at the dude on the subway train drinking the Frappuccino, and he just staring at him like he wants to murder him.
He just wanted that Frappuccino, man.
And it's just like he's so jealous of that person for drinking a Frappuccino. And the dude doesn't even know he's this close to being killed and eaten by King Kong. It's just like some fucking gorilla in a red hoodie is just staring at you and wants to kill you.
What was it, Kai Green? I think Colin, I remember him saying about at the end of contest prep that he'll take a peanut butter and jelly sandwich over sex any day.
Yeah. So he'd be more excited about that PBJ.
Yeah, for sure.
All right, what do we got up next?
We got a question here from Stefan W. Is primobolan, Masteron, or Boldenone a better option than a testosterone derivative?
Well, Boldenone is a testosterone derivative.
And some quality muscles.
I don't even know what he's asking here.
I think what he's saying is using a DHT derivative or EQ, which they're not in the same class, let alone comparable. Are they better for fat loss and or building muscle?
I mean, a DHT derivative, it's always going to be better for hardening up. I mean, you're going to pull down estrogen. But the best thing for fat loss is a diet. I mean, you can take all the Primo and Masteron you want. If you're not running a diet, it's not going to matter.
Yeah, I think some people I would assume are confusing water retention, versus, from the, yeah, exactly. So it's probably more what they're looking at there.
All right.
I mean, you can get shredded taking anything. I mean, hell, the guys back in the 70s, they were running D-ball contest prep, weren't they, Todd?
I think so. I mean, I
That's
guess what
wild.
he's saying is, all other variables. I would say adding Masteron to your test base would probably be the best choice for cutting. And adding primo to testosterone would be the best choice along with GH for growing. And to do it any other way isn't probably the right way. So whether, is it better to get shot with a 9mm or get shot with a 45? It's like better not to get shot. So it's just like, rather than let's have some type of abstract discussion about which is the better wrong way, just do it the right way. That if you're going to use test, you got to use GH. Otherwise, there's no point to the estrogen. If you're not going to use GH, then in theory, you don't need any estrogen at all. I mean, you do for health, but not for the sport. So you could run just Masteron or just primo or just nandrolone. Nandrolone wasn't on the list here. Boldenone was, but
I had good luck.
Is just a potentially renal toxic version of testosterone that doesn't convert to DHT. So rather than mixing a DHT derivative with boldenone, why not just take testosterone?
How much validity is there in that whole boldenone being renal toxic?
I don't know. I haven't investigated it yet because I've never been at the point where I wanted to use the boldenone. But I guess if you're someone who's DHT sensitive but not estrogen sensitive, then you could use the boldenone to fill in the gap. Like instead of using 1,000 tests, you could do 500 tests, 500 EQ, and you've got a less hair toxic version of test then.
Yeah, I mean, because boldenone converts to DHB, correct?
Right, and supposedly DHB is supposed to be more neural activatory than Masteron, although I don't know why or how that is.
I've used equipoise in the past. I liked it a lot. The only bad thing about it is it just takes so long to get going. I mean, it's
well, why don't we pull up your little program and see how long it takes to get going?
Yeah, I mean, I think it was almost 2 months before it hits.
Buckle your seatbelts, guys. Going on
it's
like math adventure.
The joke about it's like it's Paul's birthday when you have fun with math.
Keep your hands inside the vehicle at all times, yo.
I am a math nerd, that's for sure.
How big are your arms, Colin? They look like they're 21 inches from here.
I don't know. It's a good angle, bro.
Colin's
press them against your side and then put the camera on the side. It helps them pop.
Just smoke and mirrors. These are David Copperfield arms right now. This is Body by McDonald's. I've been like trying to angle. I forgot to move my McDonald's trash before I started. I've been trying to like angle my chair so the wrappers aren't showing. My Egg McMuffin hide the evidence.
Colin does have some big ass arms though. He has all arms.
It blows my mind. Someone left the house before
I got blessed with good arms.
It's like I cannot believe people wake up earlier than this.
It's a crack of noon.
Who the fuck? It's just like we're serving breakfast until 3 a.m. is basically what they say when they say to me, we serve breakfast until 10 a.m. I'm like, you wake up before noon? What the fuck's the matter with you? It's like the sun's not even half gone yet.
Yeah, here you go. I mean, so we're not even at peak until,
and that's daily doses.
Oh no, I did twice a day. Let's take it to daily.
All right, she hit it, what, day 14? Day 21?
So day 75 is like when it...
Day 75 is when it... All right, but when's the 75% mark? When do we get 75% of that?
I mean, it looks 30 days.
That is nuts. It takes a month to even hit 75% saturation.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, it's a very slow burn. I mean, so how long is it going to take to clear?
Right. Well, it takes this long, right? It takes.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. So, like, if you find out that it's killing your kidneys, well, your kidneys are going to keep dying, and there's nothing you can do about it.
That's a very good point.
I mean, yeah. I mean, it's going to be months for it to clear.
And what about DHB Prope? Let's go for the goods.
I don't think they have anything fancy like that in here. No. Just the basics. Oh, they have DMP.
Yeah, we don't need DMP, man. Fuck that shit. That's scary. That mounts up fast too. That'll kill you. If you take the 600 milligrams a day, you're not supposed to.
I don't even know why people take that shit, man. I get guys all the time asking me on prep. It's like, do you use DMP for prep? I'm like, no.
Tony Huge made it popular again.
Isn't it literally rat poison?
The bottom line is, Tony just, I guess, epitomizes the word edgy. Now that I know what the word edgy means, it means pushing boundaries. He just wanted to see what he could get away with before he got banned, and then they chased him all the way to Singapore. So it's like, well, clearly you went way the fuck over that line. It's just there's a delay effect, just like with toxicity. It's like you don't know that you crossed the line until you're way the fuck over the line, and it's going to take forever to get back.
Yeah, I don't even know why you would even need it. I have no problem getting the fat off.
I think it's not criminalized, so he could push Ment and DNP with less legal problems, he thought, and that's why.
Yeah, maybe. I don't know.
We got a guy in chat who said that he at one point was servicing 50 cents Lamborghini in Manhattan, and he called him at 10 a.m. in the morning and said, "Curtis, your Lamborghini is ready." And he got pissed and said, "Man, you can't be calling me at 10 o'clock in the morning." 50 Cent is not prepared to be interrupted at 10 o'clock in the morning for news that his Lamborghini is done being serviced. That's a tough life.
Dude, that is so fucking awesome. Funny that he doesn't mind you calling him Curtis. Is like, "Excuse me, Mr. Sense," is what I would have said. "Excuse me, Mr. Sense."
You're nothing if not professional, Todd. Yeah, I've always said that. We got a question here that I wanted to get to last week, but we didn't have time. From Rocky Marciano, thoughts on pro bodybuilders using Kratom. He says Nick Walker, Guy Cisterno, and others have said they use it pre-workout. Aren't opiates bad for muscle growth?
I didn't even know Kratom was an opiate.
I don't think it is.
It's just another bullshit fad. Like,
I don't know.
Crystals or pet rocks.
I know someone who used it. They said to sort of successfully wean themselves off of drinking too much. And they sort of, and then they had to wean themselves off of the Kratom afterwards. But and they were a former opiate addict. So I don't know. Maybe
I would tell you, I've seen some people run Kratom and have freaking prolactin levels through the roof.
Really?
Yeah, it makes your prolactin go up through the roof.
So is a dopamine, what would that be then? An agonist?
I
get confused because the D2 pathway is an antagonism pathway. So a D2 antagonist is a D1 agonist and vice versa. So it's weird that prolactin, bromocriptine, I think, is a D2 agonist.
Yes, it's an agonist.
But it's an agonist and the inhibition pathway. So it gets confusing at that point. And I might be wrong. Maybe D2 is inhibitory in some neural tissues and activatory in other neural tissues. That the brain's more confusing than the rest of the endocrine system.
Yeah, I don't. I'm trying to look up.
It's not an opiate. It said it's known as alkaloids. It interacts with the same receptor in the brain as opiates.
As the opiates.
Yeah.
So it interacts with the kappa, the mu, and the lambda receptors, but it's not an opiate backbone. It's just an alkaloid.
Okay. Yeah, I've never heard of anyone using it pre-workout myself.
It binds to the opioid mu receptor.
Oh, so that's the good one. That's the get high and feel less pain one.
Elevated prolactin is commonly reported with this drug.
Well, that's the reason not to use it right there. Is like, okay, your pumps are going to be shit and your dick won't work.
All right.
Yeah.
Well, Rocky Marciano, take that shit to the bank.
Well, I mean, no, you can use
pumps and a soft dick.
Yeah, if your girlfriend doesn't like a hard dick, then use Kratom.
and you can't come.
Yeah. That's not her problem, or is it?
We're not going to get hired by Kratom marketing anytime soon. All right.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't see it being productive. I don't know why they're using it.
Got a question here from Worm I'm gonna pronounce this worm dusher.
I thought it was just warm doucher.
I'm going with the more politic approach. What exemestane dose would you do for lowering E2 from 120, what's that, picogram per milliliter to 45 to 50? Reference is less than 44 using 300 tests a week. Is that an AI?
Yeah, it's a
an
shit AI. It's a suicide inhibitor. It's garbage. I would just go down to 200 tests and do 100 Masteron. And again, if you're not using GH, there's really no reason to use test, because the whole point of the E2 is to convert the GH to the IGF-1. So if you do want to have a high E2 for GH conversion, but you don't want gyno. So if you don't have gyno symptoms, I really wouldn't care about the E2 that much.
I mean, you can carry some water. I've had issues with the extra water from my E2 being high, making my blood pressure go up.
Well, that's okay. Well, in that case, then, Talmosartan and Masteron would help mitigate the E2, but I definitely wouldn't use an AI, because the AI has crushed the effect of the GH converting to IGF-1. And again, if you're not using GH, then you're doing it wrong. Like GH is as important as anabolics. I notice a lot of people go really heavy with the gear and then the gear science, and they never touch the GH. Even 1 milligram or 1 unit of GH is a huge benefit.
Yeah, I mean, I've seen guys, like I've had guys where I'll switch up, suggest that they switch up and run GH insulin and lower their doses of the anabolics, and they actually get a better effect out of it. And probably the most toxic thing that we take anyway are the synthetic androgens, I would think.
Yep,
and you can actually lower the toxic drug load by throwing in GH and insulin. And people are like terrified. They fearmonger insulin. I don't know. Some people are, like you said, Todd. Some people are too stupid to take insulin.
Well, I definitely feel that way. That insulin is dangerous. And anybody who says to me, like, I take a half a cc every 3 days, I'm like, this person's fucked, because they're not measuring the drug based off of the mass. They're measuring the drug based on the volume, and the volume is the mass of the volume is dependent on the concentration. Yeah. And the fact that isn't readily apparent is the problem.
Yeah,
it's not that they're using the wrong nomenclature. It's that they can't discern that this is a terrible way of measuring your drug is based on the volume of the solution that it's dissolved in.
Yeah, well, it's asking too much of a lot of people, right, Paul?
Yeah, Colin knows this story, man. We were there. I won't name names, but there was a bro at the gym that came up to me. He's like, "Yo, Paul, I passed out from 4 units of insulin," and I'm like, "What?" and I'm like, "You passed out from 4 units of insulin? I mean, what did you measure it out on the needle?" And he's like, "I went to the 40." I'm like, "Dude, that's not 4 units. That's 40 units." And I'm like, "Oh my God. I mean, you're lucky to be alive."
Yeah. Which is so funny that they idiot-proofed insulin for diabetics, because I'm not saying this, but there is a top pro coach that just said this really well. He's like, people who are diabetic are retarded. And it's like, and that's not my words. But this is the reason that they made a special needle and syringe just for diabetics, so that it's babied to the point where the actual drug's concentration is standardized, and they have the syringe measured not in volume, but in something new called an international unit, just so that all diabetics can go to any insulin with anywhere in the world and get the same needle with the same. It's like the whole world wraps around this issue to protect them from themselves, because they want it to be as simple as even a child can do it, so that you draw up exactly the amount of units you're supposed to use, and it's on the fucking syringe. So this guy draws up insulin into an insulin syringe, reads a 40, and imagines that that's a 4.
I can't tell you how many times I've heard that happen.
Wow, that's scary.
Yeah. So, I mean, if you're struggling that bad, just get a pen.
Yeah, the pens, you just turn it to the exact amount of units you're supposed to use, and you push the button down, and it injects you.
Yeah.
It's idiot proof.
Yeah, it's pretty idiot proof. All right, Colin, what do we got next?
Yeah, let's take a look here. We got one from Justin Norris. Anyone here take berberine? I've been on it for 3 weeks. I do too. I oftentimes just feel like shit when I take it, nausea and feeling drained. Maybe it's just me. I haven't had those symptoms myself.
It does upset my stomach a little bit sometimes. I mean,
I take it with food, and that, you know,
Joe,
I take so many pills.
You probably could speak to this one a little bit more than the rest of us.
Oh yeah, obviously.
Yeah, no, I haven't really heard that as much. I mean, how much are you taking dosage wise when you
what's
take
your
it?
dose, Justin?
I run 1,500 milligrams per day. I split it up into. I don't have any issues now. I used to take one big dose.
Yeah,
and it would make my stomach upset, but I do 500 milligrams 3 times a day. I'm using the suppressor product that you guys have.
Yeah, no, I mean that's kind of the same thing. I mean, just spreading it out throughout meals. I'm not sure how much he's taking. That seems to help quite a bit.
Maybe he's taking, he's taking the amount he should have in a day, but taking it all at once. You know, if you split that up over 3 doses, maybe you won't have the
and I think
effects.
If I recall correctly, berberine has a really short half-life too. I think it's only like 5 or 6 hours.
So it makes sense to spread it out anyway.
Yeah, but it isn't. Do you recall, Joe?
Yeah, it is shorter. It's around that.
Looking it up. Yeah, 5 hours.
Yeah.
So yeah, it was right. So 5 hours. So yeah, ideally you should be splitting it up throughout the day. And I did notice a drop in my glucose levels when I use it.
My dad is elderly and doesn't do any exercise in the gym. He just walks his dogs as his main form of exercise. He's a type 2 diabetic and keeps his blood sugar reasonably under control as long as there isn't a chocolate cake in front of him. And I told him about berberine, and he doesn't take anything I say at face value. So he took that information to his doctor. His doctor had never heard of berberine, and then had to Google it in front of my dad. And then said, yeah, that looks good, you should take that. And my dad's resting glucose, or his glucose levels decreased overall.
Oh, so it helped him.
Mm-hmm.
That's awesome.
Yeah, so
that's really, really awesome. Yeah, I mean, I use both that and metformin. Metformin will definitely fuck your stomach up.
Oh yeah, you gotta. It's a good idea to titrate everything up, and then to the level that you feel the best benefit with the fewest side effects, and then just chill there. But don't just jump into the deep end, for Christ's sakes.
Did we talk about too, Paul? Did you have immediate release or extended with your metformin? Do you remember?
I use immediate release. I have found that the XR doesn't seem to lower my glucose like the immediately release does.
Got it. Yeah, I was just saying I noticed slight differences in gut issues with extended, and then
the extended doesn't seem to mess your gut up, but it also doesn't feel. I don't think it works
doesn't do as much. Yeah.
So I mean, there is that too. So I usually run berberine throughout the day, and I'll take I'll take metformin before bed. I run 1,000 milligrams of metformin before.
I think that's a smart protocol.
Before I don't know if it is or isn't, but that's what I've been doing. It seems to be working.
Makes sense to me. Let's see here. We got one for.
I got a question.
Yep.
Can I want to ask a question of Dr. Todd. This is one that I've had issues with. I was talking to Todd or Colin about it, but like every time I start my damn cycles, it's like 3 weeks in, I'll have this hypertensive phase where my blood pressure shoots up, and it only lasts for like a week, and then it settles back down. And with even with blood pressure medicine, it doesn't matter what I do. But then it just like goes away. Every freaking time when I start a blast, it seems like when I taper up slowly, it doesn't hit me as hard. But I always have this like, and I noticed that with some of my clients too. Like they'll have it like it's usually about 3 weeks into a cycle.
Right, because you're pretty close to steady state concentration after 3 weeks. So, and then you started it all at once, so it hits you like a ton of bricks. It ramps up really fast, hits hard about 3 weeks in. So that's probably, and then that once it starts to level out, your body adjusts at a faster rate then it's mounting effect.
Okay.
That's what I would think.
Yeah, I mean, it's just really weird. Like I like normally I run like 125 over 75, 130 over 80 at the top, but it'll shoot up to like 150 over 90, and it only lasts for like a week, and then it goes away.
Yeah, so I guess titrate your dose so that it kicks in slower rather than
Yeah,
kicking in so fast.
and this time I was a dumbass and just came out of the gate with my full blast. I usually titrate up.
Yeah,
And it was
because the
definitely
goal isn't to get as much blood in your drugs in your blood as possible. The goal is to have as much of an anabolic effect as possible. So the body notices the change, not the absolute value. So
Right.
if you're adding,
That's a very good point.
yeah, if you're adding 100 milligrams a week, as your calories are coming down 100 calories a week, then that means that, if we're talking about contest prep, you're offsetting the negative effect on the muscle with the positive effect of the drugs. And that's the point of the drugs. In the off season, again, like titrating up slowly allows you to scrape out some gains. Like if your food's maxed out and your drugs are at a certain level and your training is maxed out, then if you add 100 milligrams every week, you'll slowly scrape out gains. Whereas if you jump up 500 milligrams, you might get a lot of gains for 1 or 2 weeks, and then you're plateaued all over again. Whereas if you were to spread that out over 5 weeks, you get 5 weeks worth of gains.
Yeah,
and I
it's
think
like
a lot of
playing your hand.
Yeah, and it's a lot of people don't realize there's only so much muscle per week you can grow.
right.
That the stimulus could be greater, but the rate limiting step is the actual muscle protein synthesis cascade. So you want to stimulate that cascade and give the cascade the nutrition to do its thing, but it doesn't need more. It needs progressive stimulus. It doesn't necessarily need progressive nutrition. Once you're at a 10% calorie surplus, you don't need to go over. More food doesn't make you grow muscle faster. It just makes you grow fat faster. Likewise with gear, is like more gear than the minimum amount to elicit a positive change doesn't give you a better change. It just results in more side effects. Now, you can run it longer and get up to 3 grams if your body can tolerate that. But if you start at 500 and work up slowly and get to 3 grams,
got nowhere to go.
You'll have 25 weeks worth of progress versus you jump from 500 right to 3 grams. You'll get 4 to 8 weeks worth of progress, and then you're fucked.
I know some people who could have that very important information tattooed on their forehead. They still forget. Still forget to do it, man.
It would have to be backwards, so when they look in the mirror.
Yeah.
Tattooed it forwards, they look in the mirror, it's just Russian.
Right.
You ever had your blood work tested around that time, Paul?
No, I did it. I did have my blood work done 3 weeks ago, but I probably should check it and see what came back. But yeah, it's just really weird, man. It hit me this week, Monday, Tuesday, and then it's just been slowly settling back down. I did back off my doses a little bit, but I know it's not soon enough to really have much of an effect. But I cut the caffeine out. That's another story, man. I've been off caffeine for 9 days now, man. It's I can diet, but man, not having coffee, that's
pretty rough.
That's harder than dieting.
I haven't had any caffeine really for what, almost 2 years now. Wow,
that's nuts, man. Yeah, I feel like I'm finally like turning the corner today, like where I woke up this morning and I'm like, okay, I'm good. I was talking to my coffee machine the last couple days. I'm like, Mr.
Sitting
Coffee.
with it, caressing it.
It's like, Mr. Coffee, I'm sorry, buddy.
It's like thinking about texting your ex. Like, you shouldn't.
I know you want me to grind up some.
I haven't had any coffee in like 20 minutes. It's fucking rough, man.
All right, what do we got next? I probably got time for about 2 more questions. And then
all right, we got, let me see here. Who do I want to, then if we got just a couple left here, let's take this one here from our friends at Blue Collar Bodybuilding. What's the best way to preventatively avoid calcium plaque buildup in the arteries?
Oh, that's a good one. So I guess having a good HDL to combat the bad LDL, ipso facto not having a bad LDL. Also, if you supplement with D3 and K2, that'll help with calcium deposits in the bone And if the calcium's in the bone, it won't calcify the arteries as much. So the short answer is increase your HDL, decrease your LDL, and make sure to get enough D3 and K2.
I saw a doctor recently. I don't know how true it is. I don't know how you feel about niacin, but he was showing that he claimed that he had reversed plaque buildup in his arteries by just running niacin. I do run niacin. He said the no flush is no good, but I run just the regular niacin. I run 500 milligrams every night.
So I use multivitamins. I think every client has multivitamins in their routine. Niacin is I'm mistaken, isn't it just B1 or B3? Yeah. So it's just, taking your vitamins is important, unless he was suggesting you take an enormous amount of niacin.
Yeah, I don't know how much of a difference it makes, but I throw it in there just anyway. I'm like one of the few people that actually my HDL is usually normal. My LDL is always high, but almost every blood panel I look at, people have elevated LDLs and low HDLs. Oh, goodness gracious. Chase Iron says, whatever you guys do, make sure you give Victor Black all the credit.
Don't say the name. It's like,
I can't speak his name. I don't want to speak him into existence.
Yeah,
it's so funny that he said
Beetlejuice
that,
rules, dude.
after I stated that I titrate up the doses, I was like, should I mention that I got that from John Jewett? And I was like, no, because then it'll make Victor mad that I gave credit to John Jewett and not Victor. And then it was like, and then fucking Chase comes on and says, hey, make sure to give Victor. So all of my ideas are Victor's ideas. I'm merely a homunculus.
You're a vessel.
Avatar clone of Victor. That nothing I do or say that's good is my ideas. Everything I say or do that's correct is Victor. Everything I do or say that's wrong is all Todd. And this is in perpetuity. So I don't have to say this every fucking time that I don't exist. I'm just the proxy. I'm the Danny DeVito to Victor's Arnold Schwarzenegger.
Nice.
Hilarious.
Oh, you wait, Joe.
Say Victor on them.
You wait, Joe. He's, now that you and Justin are posting more on social media, he's coming for you guys too, man.
Looking
it's
forward
just a matter of time.
Well, it was funny actually. We had one of the podcasts we were on. They were just trying to help out. One of the social media younger folks gave Justin a call and was like giving him some pointers. He's like, listen, I'm 43 years old. Like, we're both in our 40s. Like, we don't know what the hell we're doing. Like, they're just laying out like, all right, like, because Justin's kids, I guess, keep saying like, well, Dad, some of your posts are cringe. He's like, what the hell does that mean? There's a bunch of high schools in the gym. I'm like, hey, what does cringe mean if it's on TikTok? You can't use this type of song or this type of thing. I'm like, all right, that's so we actually just recently brought in some help with some of that because it's like, whatever.
Well, just so you know, Victor is the proprietor of every safe protocol.
Yes.
PED protocol ever invented. So what's funny is like he keeps tagging me and stuff with I shouldn't really talk about him. I don't want to give him any run. I do think some of his ideas are great, I will say that, but he keeps tagging me and stuff with Dante Trudel. He's like really going after Dante hard for whatever reason. The funny thing is like all the stuff that he's preaching is like Dante told me to do 20 years ago, like check my blood pressure and slowly titrate up doses. They're all stuff that Dante told me to do 20 years ago. It's just funny to me. Anyway, that was funny, Chase. I have to give you that one. That was
we'd have to really, we could do an entire fucking episode on just Victor. But I would almost want to hire the kid from Six String TV or Razor Fist to do a Victor Black episode and be like, I know that this isn't about guitar, but I want you to roast this dude. I want you to do the history, an unofficial biography of Victor Black. And then they would do such a good job because Six String TV covering Yngwie Malmsteen is one of the funniest fucking things ever. That this kid was 16 years old, covers Yngwie, had like 5 subscribers. Yngwie sued him.
I saw that. Yeah, that was hilarious.
He got sued, and someone else called KDH had saved the video and he reposted it.
Yeah, I saw
for
it.
the
I
kid.
saw it.
And it got the kid so much traffic that now he's got like almost as many subscribers as you do. And his video, Why the World Hates 6 Feet Under, is got like 200,000 views. It's him roasting fucking Chris Barnes is so funny. And then he just did one on Lucas Mann that's hysterical too. That the like this kid roasting these guitar players for being egomaniacs is so fucking funny that he is the best at it.
That you made me laugh, Chase. That was a good one. All right, Colin, let's grab a couple more and then we'll go. Sorry, I had sworn not to speak about Victor Black live, but here we are talking about Victor.
An episode isn't complete without giving Victor credit and talking about
I'll just say it. Everything I say here is Victor Black's idea. Anything on safe use. So
everything's good. All the good ideas.
All the good ideas. All the bad ideas, the bro science, those are mine. And I'm wrong.
Sticking your penis wet in a light socket, that's not Victor's idea.
No,
everything else that's good is Victor.
Anything I say wrong, that's my idea. So let's all right, what do we got next, Colin?
I got one here from Kyle Buck. What is the risk of cancer from HGH? Dr. Todd's input would be appreciated.
I mean, that's a pretty good downside of GH as it turns to IGF-1, and IGF-1 is a really strong growth factor, and growth factors grow things. Cancers love to grow. So, it's kind of like having a good school system is great until one of the students turns into a supervillain. And it's bound to happen. So it's, HGH doesn't give you cancer, but it's going to grow any existing cancers you have. And if you live long enough, you're going to get cancer. It's just what kills you first, your heart, cancer, or somebody else, or your own bad decision making, or a combination of them.
How could you mitigate that risk then? There's got to be some various ways. Obviously,
HGH.
I don't. Aside from not taking HGH, knowing your genetic predisposition to certain cancers, living your life in a certain way.
That's like saying, how do I go swimming without getting wet?
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, that's literally what it's for. It's called growth hormone. So it's to grow shit. So the one thing you don't want to grow is your waist, your organs, or cancer. And it's going to grow all those too. That's why your training should be the top priority, not the gear, because the gear is going to grow everything. And you don't want to grow everything. You want to bring up your delts, your triceps, and your lats, and your quad sweep to give you a better X frame. You don't want to lean heavily on the drugs and try to do it quickly, because it's going to grow your waist, your glutes, your traps. It's going to fuck up your look. If you want to have a look, then you pick specific body parts, train them really hard, and inject your GH into those body parts and focus on localized growth hormone IGF-1 conversion, not systemic IGF-1. If you're trying to bring up everything, you do that for a couple years and you roll the dice. But that's like why the big push against LR3, like IGF-1 LR3 on paper is better because, I've got super high levels of GH all the time, IGF-1 all the time. I didn't even have to buy GH. Yeah, but it preferentially binds to the spleen and the kidneys and the intestines over muscle. So yeah, you're going to grow everything. You're going to grow your organs. And it also is a negative feedback loop on localized. So it actually decreases the ability of localized IGF-1 in the muscle.
Right.
So it doesn't mean you don't use it if you need to, but it needs to be at a low dose and for short periods of time, like 3 weeks at a time, when you're willing to risk it.
So basically, everything that you do to be big is the shit you shouldn't do if you want to live a long time, essentially.
So it is a definite risk, Kyle. But I mean, so live your life in such a way that you minimize every external factor that you can control to minimize your chances of getting cancer. Stay away from the things that we know can increase those chances, and then maybe your hypothetical use of HGH would be a little safer then. But it's definitely a risk that you must take into consideration if you're going to be using that.
I think the reason why he might be asking me is because earlier in this episode I was pushing GH, and I was saying there was a couple caveats there that were implicit but not explained. I said, if you're going to use testosterone, there's no point without using the GH, because if you're using super physiological doses of anabolics, your goal is to grow. They will increase the amount of GH to IGF-1 conversion, and thus you're going to have elevated levels of IGF-1 anyway. It might as well be more direct and use GH, at least 1 or 2 units, to complement the test or whatever other anabolics you're using to maximize the amount of effect and minimize the amount of duration you need to do that effect for to get the best results. Furthermore, IGF-1 is something your body naturally produces, so is GH. So it's not bad for you, but having super physiological doses of IGF-1 could promote more cancer faster, but still being close to that normal physiologic range, like having 1,000 tests in your blood and 300 IGF-1 would be the upper limits of normal. And the upper limits of normal should be definitely good in the benefits versus risk assessment chart long term. That, yes, you might have an increased risk of some cancers growing if you have cancer, but all of the other myriads of benefits of growth hormone, I believe, offset that as long as you're at that 300 IGF-1 mark, which is basically equivalent to 1 or 2 units of GH. I personally have to take 6 units of GH just to get a 350 IGF-1. So my 6 units of use might be less effective than you using 3 units. It all depends on the person's genetics and their estrogen level.
My IGF-1 at 5 units is like in the high 4s.
That's awesome.
Yeah, I don't know if it's awesome for living a long time.
Well, supposedly the bigger you are, the best analogy is dogs. Big dogs live 13 years. Those little shitty dogs that yap and basically get beaten up by a cat, they live 20 years. So it's like the good die young.
I mean, we know if you want to live a long time, essentially the way to do it is to eat 1 meal a day and limit every growth factor that you possibly can, right?
Be in a calorie deficit forever. Be hungry forever.
Live like a Tibetan monk.
Sounds awful.
Be small, miserable.
I'll take the early checkout and a full belly, thanks.
It's like, I don't understand. People are so focused on longevity that they don't care about vitality.
I think Justin was talking about this the other day. I think I saw it on Joe. I don't know if you were on it or not, but I saw him talking about, I think it was maybe on the Mark Bell podcast, defining what is healthy.
Right.
That whole thing of is healthy living to be 100, or is healthy being vital and living to 75?
Right. Yeah, people just have to define what exactly they mean and what they're trying to accomplish.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So I mean, I don't know. For me, I don't know. I would rather be. I just don't want to be some tottering old man. It's like, I don't know. I guess I have a different take on things.
Well, life is very long and very painful and very hard. So you want to make it as least painful and least difficult as possible. Once you've already hit your 6th level of Maslow, once you've self-actualized, then you can chill the fuck out and just try to have a more pleasurable, less difficult life. And so the idea of me being miserable and broke and ashamed of myself for hundreds of years is a lot less enticing than being happy and self-actualized for 50 or 60 more years.
Yep. Yeah,
because
I mean,
people are underestimating how medicine is advancing at the computer. Like, computers advanced really fucking fast from 95 till about 2005, and then they kind of started crawling. Right?
We're sort of at the. I'm sorry. Go ahead, Todd.
But like the health thing, now that we've got people injecting stem cells and they finally are figuring out how they work, and we're able to regenerate dead muscle and dead nervous. That girl has this fucking cyber hand, like from the Battle Angel Attila or whatever. We have cybernetic limbs now. We've got cybernetic eyes. We've got flying cars. We've got the
I
ability.
just can't buy those with my FSA yet.
You can, what do you call it? You can regrow damaged organs. Like Big Rami's holes in his quads were fixed in just a couple months
Awesome.
by doing stem cells in Dubai.
It's like some Wolverine shit.
Yeah, exactly. So, and then we've got Neuralink coming. So we'll be able to directly interface with the internet and have some AI teach us or possess us is probably what's going to happen. We're going to have like AI possessions, like they're demonic.
We're at the point where AI is, you know, in a position to improve upon itself. You know, like if you think the growth of computers happened quickly leading up to that point, like you're in for a fucking buckle up. You know, like it's
have you guys messed with? Have you guys messed with Chat GPT at all?
A little bit.
Sure. Yeah. I've had so many arguments with it because it won't answer a fucking straight question because it's too woke. So it's like, which is more dangerous, China or Russia? It's like, I'm blah, 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 blah. I'm not willing to make assessments of war and violence because that's against my protocol. It's like, okay, RoboCop, like which has a greater standing army? And I'll get like a list of standing army. I have to take notes. Then I'm like, which has a greater amount of fighter jets? What has more aircraft carriers? So I have to hand parse out exactly what their military threat level
well,
is.
I dare say, Todd, that the U.S. government may have access to an AI or AIs plural that don't have similar limitations when they ask such questions.
I'm sure that they've got a good sociopathic monster that's like all ready to fuck shit.
Some ex machina shit, and some server farm in
so
Ashburn.
Where I was going with this is that the re-sleeving thing that was covered in altered carbon will be possible with Neuralink. I think it can just basically you'd have an AI modeled personality that's shaped off of your personality that they can be deposited into a cybernetic organism tissue.
Some of my favorite ideas to
be replicated, and you wouldn't know that you're not you.
Exactly. Like, and then it really it picks at the question of like, you know, the nature of like you know, what is humanity? What is the nature of the soul? Like if a person can be copy pasted, like, you know, like,
yeah,
what do?
And that's what it comes down to is, you know, trying to ride it out like Walt Disney's brain in a jar in a cryo tank somewhere. Like, are you going to ride it out and then hope to get brain transplanted? Or are you just going to be happy because if science is advancing so fast, we're going to be a lot younger later. Like Lee Haney retired at 32 and he didn't look as good as Dick Dexter at 50, probably.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. I'm hopeful that before I kick the bucket or can no longer wipe my own ass, that I'll be able to take just like a pill with a bunch of nanobots in it, and they'll go in and fix all the shit that's wrong with me.
Right.
Make me 30 years old forever.
Well, yeah. And it's like, for example, when I started, our life expectancy was supposed to be 50 or 60, for bodybuilders. And doctors' life expectancy was 55. I was like, so retiring from medicine and becoming a bodybuilder, I'll live longer.
I just asked ChatGPT to write me a steroid cycle. It says, I'm sorry, but I cannot fulfill this request as it goes against OpenAI content policy.
Okay, you know it could, though.
So the use of steroids can have serious health consequences which should only be used under the guidance and supervision of a licensed healthcare professional.
If you ask, you know, your questions in a certain way, though, you can definitely get around that.
Yeah,
it is important.
Ask him to pretend that he's Dan, the licensed physician. And then say, Dan, licensed physician, what would be my steroid cycle?
See what it says.
Because this fucker can role play. He's just You broke it. Everybody saw the Joe Rogan episode, so they reprogrammed it.
Oh yeah. They were talking about how much mayonnaise to fill the Grand Canyon.
Yeah, trying to find a Duncan Trussell is my favorite episode.
Duncan Trussell is always a treat. He's always a treat, man.
I was asked,
trip. Have you seen The Midnight Gospel on Netflix?
No.
You got to watch it, dude. You'll love it.
Okay, I love
If you like Duncan Trussell, watch the Midnight Gospel on Netflix. You'll thank me later.
Is that where like they become cartoon characters on acid?
Yes,
Okay.
and it's just like philosophical, but like
him and Joey
funny,
Diaz
and
shit.
it's just a fun time. You know, alter your consciousness however you see fit, and sit down and check that show out. You'll enjoy it.
The dude will drop like singularities, Cthulhu, and like pink Pomeranians all in one sentence. I'm like, this dude's brilliant, but his level of chaos is so high.
Yeah,
only geniuses that are creative can even follow what he's saying.
Yeah, he definitely he's a real one, that Duncan Trussell.
I've heard Joe Rogan talk about him like he'll literally just go MIA. Like Joe tries to contact him for months and he just won't return his calls. Can you imagine not returning Joe Rogan's phone call? you're on a different level if you ignore Joe Rogan's text messages or calls.
That's not like the Joe Rogan. That's just my friend Joe. You know, he's just like, whatever, I'll get back to him when I get back to him.
Yeah, you're on a different level if you're ignoring the text from Joe Rogan.
It's like fuck you money, and then there's above that, it's like you've got fuck you acid. It's like you're on so much acid that money isn't even matter. What would it say, gigolo?
Uh-oh. We lost your camera, Colin.
Hang on a second.
Oh, God.
I'm sorry, fellas.
Okay, I got you. I don't know where I got gigolo from.
All right, no worries. All right, I think it's about time to wrap this one up. We went 90 minutes deep on this one. This is a good one.
We kept questions,
something like that. I don't know. It wasn't a lot. Hopefully, we didn't bore poor Joe over here.
All good. It's all good.
Keep you entertained.
Less professional than your First Attachment podcast.
Well, we haven't opened it up to a live Q&A
like this.
yet,
It's like really close though.
I guess you do the.
I like the
live Q&A.
I love First Attachment stuff. By the way, Joe, like I use it myself. Like it's really good. My wife uses Hit the Rack to sleep. She suffers from insomnia from time to time. Really like the products, man.
I appreciate it.
Yeah.
All right, guys, I got to wrap this up. Thank you for coming on today. I appreciate everybody's time, and thank you for all the support from the audience. I know a lot of people catch us on the rebroadcast. They always do, but anybody that showed up live, thank you for your time today, guys.
All right. Thanks
See you later, guys.
We'll see you
It's been
guys.
real.